Coming up on Techzilla, a do-it-yourself home video and audio server. Get everything all in one place. Plus, we visit the Berkeley Seismological Lab to learn more about how earthquakes are measured. And Songbird, yeah, it's a cute little birdie that sings, but it's also a cool media browser. All this and more in this week's episode, which is brought to you by GoDaddy.com, TradePub.com, Netflix, and the white-faced socky monkey, considered one of the strangest animals on the planet. Hello and welcome to Techzilla. I'm Jessica Corbin.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
So how are you doing, Mr. Norton?
I'm good. It's been a very strange few days.
Why?
Well, first of all, there's been total sleep deprivation from feeding the baby.
Yes.
I've seen Ratatouille like 7 times. And I went to build a notebook as a server. Turns out the motherboard was dead. And the whole Apple will fix it thing on the website, it says ending soon. Well, actually it ended and they forgot to change the website.
Okay.
So I bought an old G3 notebook that's dead.
Okay.
And it's useless.
I don't understand this. They let you buy it?
Well, I bought it off of Craigslist.
Okay.
I got it for like no money. And I figured, okay, you know, they're still doing the warranty service at Apple, so I'm going to replace it. So I ended up with what I like to think of as a sort of, you know,
We're dissecting the computer at this point.
Exactly. Do you ever wonder what's inside of a notebook? Like,
this is what you have.
Yeah, you've got your keyboard, you've got your mouse.
And I have a feeling we're going to be using some of these parts in the future for other projects, yeah?
You are absolutely correct.
I mean, this isn't all for nothing.
That's the upside, yeah. But basically, this is no longer going to be a notebook because it's like $300 to replace the dead motherboard on it.
Right.
So there's the graphics processor, the cooling fans down here, the DVD. Actually, this is cool. This is going to go into one machine I have, which is the CDRW drive, DVD drive, 30 gigabyte hard drive I can reuse for a little home server. So we got a Wi-Fi card here, the heat pipe I can reuse on something else. So yeah, basically it's like pile o' parts.
Recycle, reuse. That's what you're going to do.
Reduce,
recycle.
Recycle,
reuse.
Or reuse, reduce,
We're
reduce,
green here
reuse,
on Techzilla.
Especially remember, plus a lithium-ion battery.
Yeah.
So if I can figure out how to recharge it, I can use this too.
Probably in some GPS kit to where you're locked off somewhere.
I like that thought.
Okay.
I should point out, I always get questions about reusing old notebook monitors. It's almost impossible to do unless you can actually find a graphics card, like Earth LCD might sell them sometimes, that'll actually power these because they're essentially digital and they're powered, basically designed to be powered off the motherboard for basically the backlight and the actual digital feed for it. And it's almost impossible to find a graphics card that interface with it. So it would be nice to be able to reuse this. It's a nice monitor, but it probably costs, if I'm lucky, I can find a $200 graphics card that has no performance that'll put something up on this. So that's something we get asked about a bunch.
Cool.
But yeah, that's like the innards of the notebook.
And that was the last 3 days, right here. Here we go.
Well, at least the last couple.
Okay, so we just got an email and it said our family has 3 Macs, 2 iPhones, and numerous iPods. Is there a way to have one place to store all the audio and photos so we don't need to have copies of everything on each machine to sync? From Walt, Glendora, California.
Glendora, where is that?
That's down south.
SoCal.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, is the answer to the question. If you have a home network, it's easy. All you need to do is figure out one machine or actually build a machine like, you know, what that was going to be for. It's like a $300 notebook you get off Craigslist and you dedicate it to be your media server. So you get an external hard drive or an internal hard drive for it. I like notebooks because Robert Heron over at DLTV taught me like notebooks are cheap. They don't use a lot of power, so they're great for home servers. All you're going to do, it's pretty easy, is get like an external USB FireWire drive that's big enough to hold all the audio and video and photo files you want. Attach it to this, use Windows XP, OS 10, Linux, whatever you like. Turn on file sharing for those files. And if it's connected to your home network, every machine in the house will be able to see those files and basically share them.
Right.
It'll work with iTunes, it'll work with pretty much anything you want to share the files on. So it's pretty easy. We're not going to get real granular like this is how you turn on file sharing, but we're going to put links on the website that show you how to basically turn on file sharing and take a look at those things from across the network.
Totally helpful. And then this is all hardwired, but is there a way you can do this wirelessly too?
Absolutely. Basically, this is just going to be, this could be plugged into your wireless access point. You could use a wireless card on it. You can use an Ethernet card on it. The only difference between basically the wireless and the hardwired is just how you connect it to the network. You know what I mean? Because if your home network, your home network's probably a mixture of Ethernet, like you may have Ethernet into a printer or a couple of your old machines, and then wireless for your notebooks. as long as they're all on the same network, the same node on the network, you're totally golden.
Right. All right, so coming up, we all know about the Richter scale, but what else is there to know about measuring earthquakes?
Oh, cool.
Find out. But first, here's our producer, Heather Frank, who we're finding to be more and more distracted by her comic books with her critically acclaimed Pick of the Week.
This week, I've chosen the Ex Machina series, and Book 6, Power Down, is hot off the presses. This edgy DC Comics Wildstorm series, created by Brian K. Vaughan, is a political thriller that tells the tale of a former civil engineer turned superhero. A freak accident under the Brooklyn Bridge left him with the ability to control and talk to machines. Now he goes by the name of Mitchell 100, aka the Great Machine. After saving the Second World Trade Center tower from falling by communicating with the airplane targeted to crash into it, he decides to leave behind his crime-fighting past and run for mayor of New York City. And guess what? He wins! Mitchell is challenged by visions of his past as a machine and tries to understand the extent of his superpowers. Tony Harris's art is a combination of World War II propaganda posters and Sin City-esque illustrations. I wonder what the world would be like with a superhero in office. To find out, check out the bizarre world of Ex Machina.
And speaking of good reading, get free tech journals and tech magazine subscriptions from tradepub.com. They have some really popular and cool magazines available like Dr. Dobbs Journal, eWeek, Software Magazine, Information Week, and Internet Telephony, plus tons more. Sign up to get any or all of them completely free at techzilla.tradepub.com. Our hard-working producer Neha Tewari met up with the research seismologists at the Berkeley Seismological Laboratory last week to discuss the technology behind measuring earthquakes.
A few weeks ago, Northern California was shook up by a 5.6 magnitude earthquake. Some of the biggest quakes in history have devastated buildings, caused huge tsunamis, and claimed lives. Today I'm at UC Berkeley's Seismological Lab to talk to Bob Uhrhammer, who's going to show us the tools and technology used to measure this natural phenomenon. Now I know we're standing here in front of one of the oldest seismographs that you guys have. Could you tell me more about it?
Yeah, this is a Vickert seismograph. They were very common around the turn of the last century, and it's a very useful instrument because it records on smoked paper, and of its generation, it was the best instrument available. Charles Richter was an astronomer, and he borrowed the idea of measuring stellar magnitude to make an earthquake magnitude scale. And he did this in the 1930s. His background was actually astronomy. Then he went into seismology. And so he used the recordings on Wood Anderson seismographs to develop this scale. He called it the local magnitude scale and immediately got called Richter magnitude by everybody, and the name stuck.
So here we have the model seismometer. What is it?
Basically, this is a model that really demonstrates the operating principle of the seismograph, the sensing element that actually senses the ground motion, which is called a seismometer. Here you have an inertial mass. It can swing back and forth like this horizontally. It's suspended on a hinge. It's like a gate on a gate post.
Okay.
So you have a hinge back here. You have a mass. Over here you have a pair of red magnets with a coil of wire between them. Whenever the magnetic field cuts across a color wire, it generates electrical voltage, which drives the ammeter down here. Watch the inertial mass as I shake the base. You see the mass is sitting still?
Yes.
That's a property called inertia. It tends to remain at rest. And so as long as I'm shaking this at a frequency that's higher than the natural frequency of the system, the mass sits still and you can measure the relative motion.
That is really neat. It's physics in real life. Now this seems like a pretty heavy thing. I definitely can't move it.
Yes, it's a Benioff seismograph. It actually weighs about 400 pounds, and the inertial mass in it weighs 220 pounds. It's a 100 kilogram Benioff. And these were developed in the 1940s, the earliest versions of them. And by the 1960s, they became a very important instrument.
Can you tell me more about how it's constructed? There's this big drum in the middle, and then there's glass.
Yes, basically the glass is just strictly for viewing. The big drum that you see here in the center, the big cylinder, is actually a hollow cylinder and has a large spring going through it that holds it up.
Okay.
And it's an inertial mass. Basically, you have a mass suspended by a spring. When the ground moves, the mass tries to sit still. So you can measure the relative motion between the ground and the mass.
Now moving up to the 1960s, right. and currently I see this is still something that you use. What is this?
Well, this is basically a helicoder recording. And the advantage of this is that you can have the seismograph in a remote site. It doesn't have to be physically here. The seismographic signal, the voltage from the seismograph can be converted to a frequency that you can then transmit over a standard voice grade telephone line.
Now we're at the engineering lab, and here's something that's from the 1980s, right?
Yes, this is a modern digital data logger. They were developed in the late 1980s, and instead of doing analog recording like we were talking about earlier, each one of our remote sites has this system located there, and it's basically a computer-driven system. It has digitizers that digitize the signal from the seismographs and converts it into a digital number stream, and it's very high resolution. It has a resolution of 24 million to 1.
And this gets transmitted to the server room?
Yes, it gets transmitted to the server room where it's all collected, and it goes into a big disk system.
Now, you were speaking before of how things now have moved from analog to digital.
Right.
This would be a good example of that.
Yes. One of the things that we've done is go to the digital technology, mainly because on an analog recording, like the drum recorder we saw, the range of motion you can see is about 1,000 to 1.
Right.
For the digital system, it's 16 million to 1. It's 24-bit integer arithmetic, so it's 16 million to 1 range. What we have here is a number of stations that we have scattered throughout northern Central California. It's all of vertical components from broadband stations, and the data are telemetered back to Berkeley from the remote computer via packets.
Okay, Bob, so you promised me that I could make an earthquake of my own, so that's why we're here, and we have the whole thing hooked up, so why don't you explain it and tell me what to do?
Basically, what we have here is the whole seismograph system. We have a seismometer sitting on the floor here by our feet, and then we have amplifiers and a recording system.
Okay.
And it has enough magnification on it that if you stomp on the ground, or stomp on the floor, you'll see that pin move.
I'm gonna try it out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. There you go.
Hey, I'm a little earthquake causer. Anyways, thank you so much for inviting me and the viewers of Techzilla to UC Berkeley to find out more about earthquakes.
You're very welcome.
So what were you doing during the 5.6 that we had like a few weeks ago here in San Francisco?
Once I realized it wasn't one of the Muni buses doing 70 down my street, grabbed the dog, and the wife had the baby, and we were trying to figure out where the cat was and going for the biggest door frame in the house.
I totally went blank on what to do during an earthquake, so I like almost did stop, drop, and roll.
Which is
that was like
great
the right
if you've
thing to
been
do,
lit
but
on
that was
fire.
totally what you do. The fire. Eventually, when the earthquake stopped, I figured out I should have run underneath the door jamb.
Yeah. Do not run outside, especially if you're in downtown.
Especially if you're naked, because that's embarrassing.
I hate it when that happens. I don't hate, though, Songbird. Actually, we got two really cool tools.
Two really cool things. A little music segment.
For basically finding music online. They're kind of, one of them is sort of a music browser. It's called Songbird, and we can pull that up right now. And we're looking at a page called 7-Inch Punk. It's a music blog about punk. And you notice there's this thing down at the bottom there. If I open that page, if I refresh that page, it's going to look at the website, and it's going to pull the website up, and then all of a sudden this thing's going to slide up at the bottom. That's really cool. It's essentially a collection of all of the music that's linked on that web page. So rather than having to scroll down and read through the blog, you can just go straight to that and start clicking on download, start downloading and listening to the music.
See, that's so cool. So mine is just a single website. It's called Songza, and it's a nifty free online music jukebox and search engine created by Chicago-based software company Humanized Inc.
Humanized. They make some really cool utilities.
Yeah, you were showing me some of them, and we can talk about more about that later. What is Songbird built for?
What's kind of interesting about Songbird is it's built on Mozilla, so it's a cousin to Firefox, right? So they built a audio playback engine into it. They've got search built into it. And what's interesting, one of the big differences between that and the item you're showing is this is basically designed to help you find music and download it to your machine.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it goes without saying that Songza's interface is very, very basic. I mean, you couldn't get more basic if you tried. So simply type in the name of the band you're looking for or the song in the simple search box, and then you can choose to play it, rate it, share it, add it to a playlist. You can even add it instantaneously to your blog, which is very cool. Or even watch the music video on YouTube, which was very interesting to me that they have that function. We'll talk about that a little more.
Well, it's kind of funny, right? Because that seems to be looking, Songza seems to be looking at maybe Google Video seems to be the source of a lot of the music. Because we found a bunch of stuff where it's on YouTube or other video sources where a lot of live music clips. And
not to mention if you do the buy now function on the site, which they have right here, it hooks you up with a bunch of links from Google.
Okay, now Songbird is still in beta. It's up to version 0.3, which is such a sad little number. But I've been using it for almost 10 months. It's stable. It works well. I found a lot of music on it. It plays back music, lets me browse my local collection along with finding stuff out on the web. And part of the reason it works so well on the web is it's got Screamer built in, which is a pretty standard music search engine web thing. But I like it, and it's free.
Yeah.
And if you want to try it, beta is open for everybody.
Awesome. And so Songza, unfortunately, is still in private beta.
It's okay.
But you can get early access by using the code MASHABLIZA.
Whatever that is.
Go ahead and use that. And this site is great for people that just want to, do lists and maybe come upon, songs live versions of songs and see video of live versions of songs that they've never seen.
They're both free. They both let you find music. It's awesome.
You're going to want to check them out.
Absolutely.
All right. So coming up, get ready to hear about my latest obsession in this week's Code Red, which is sponsored by Netflix. If you like high def, you can now get both HD, DVD, and Blu-ray movies and shows. Get a free trial of them by signing up through a site they set up just for us, netflix.com/Tekzilla. And now it's time for Code Red. So in a nutshell, it is the place where I share with you my Geek Fave picks of the week. And today I'm going to show you found, that's 4s.com. It is a social networking site created by one of the first master flash artists, Yugo Nakamura, where you can post and share your favorite images found on the web. So think Flickr, but for posting other people's pictures, yeah? The presentation is straightforward. Users bookmark images they like, which show up on the site along with the associated URL. One of the main draws of this site is that the participants have an incredible eye for imagery, ranging from architecture to fashion photography to even graphic design, but all have this really strong and rich, beautiful, inspirational quality about them. So the dynamic recommendation feature is a great bookmarking tool. So if you say that you like one image, it'll offer up others you may like too. It's kind of like how Amazon recommends things to you based on your searches. So you can follow an interesting thread. So for instance, I really loved this one picture from Cinnamon, and it's this lady in this poofy pink dress flying high, and it will recommend an associated pic, like in this case, the Hello Tomorrow doggy that looks kind of crazed but really, really funny. The possibilities are endless, and you can just keep following those threads forever. Regrettably, it is still in private beta, so not everyone can participate, and each new user only gets one invitation to pass on. And I can't wait to actually get to participate and show the world what I think is neat. So, if you got one of those precious invites and it doesn't have an owner, you know who would love you forever. Come on, Jessica@Tekzilla.com. Do it. Okay, so coming up, 802.11n is all the rage, but do you really need it? But first, attention all you Mario fanatics, this one's for you. It's finally here, the latest Mario adventure, Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii. From legendary designer Miyamoto, this beautiful game takes place in outer space, at the Comet Observatory, and among curious planetoids and bizarre creatures. The main objective of this game is to save Princess Peach from evil villain Bowser by collecting Power Stars. There are 40 galaxies, or levels, within each of the 6 worlds that contain 1 to 6 stars, which present themselves once you've defeated the enemies or accomplished certain tasks. Mario can jump and launch from planet to planet, but beware, gravity plays a big role and even affects Mario's jumping ability. He can jump higher in low gravity. Every planet has a gravitational force that keeps Mario from falling off into the deep space. He can float and fly through walls and even transform into a bee. I haven't even told you about all the power-ups or comets. There's so much to explore in Super Mario Galaxy, out now.
Big thanks to GoDaddy for reaching out and sponsoring Tekzilla. If you want to make an impact online, do it with GoDaddy.com. .com names as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much more. Enter code TEK5, TEK5, when you check out and save an additional $10 off any order of $40 or more.
Viewer mail time. So, first one reads, I love the clip of you killing your laser printer.
Thank you.
That was last week. If you guys didn't check it out, you got to. By the way, I work at Staples and we started carrying the cartridges you needed today. Any idea when or if Draft N will become standard? Scott, Lodi, California.
I just can't believe now I can buy the cartridges.
That was such an awesome destruction.
It was fun.
It was really good. It shattered really, really well.
If you get a chance to drive a truck over an annoying piece of hardware, do it.
Yeah.
All right, so 802.11n, Scott, Jessica, everybody out watching, will be final, in theory, around September 2008. There's one last vote in early 2008. Then in theory, the spec's going to be done and they can have the final version of Wi-Fi 802.11n.
So why are they selling 802.11n products now?
Because they can. Well, I mean, they started with like pre-N and then draft N, but basically, networking companies, they want to sell more hardware. If everybody's got 802.11g, you've got to go, you know what, there's something faster.
Right.
It's going to be 4 times as fast.
Right.
It's going to be more robust. It's going to be furry, whatever it takes to sell it. Not furry in that sense, but furry in the better sense.
Totally understand.
Anyhow, when the IEEE, they put together a spec, they get a bunch of people in a room, they fight back and forth over what the spec's going to be, and sometimes, like in 802.11n, it takes years to settle out, just forever.
So the stuff that people actually have bought, like these, when they come out with the standard, is this stuff still going to apply?
It should, actually. The draft N stuff should also be pretty easy to upgrade to the final version of N. The pre-N stuff is probably not going to be quite as fast, and some of the really early kind of like, semi-proprietary, it only works with our company stuff, you kind of hope it. A lot of it depends on if the company goes back and makes drivers to update older products, especially firmware. If they don't do that, you're probably going to have a great home network, and maybe your 802.11 stuff won't work anywhere else, which if you're all in your house probably isn't a big problem.
So what do you want to look for when you're buying?
Wi-Fi certification. Right now, draft N, and hopefully in the next few months when they finish finalizing that spec, they'll have a final N spec. Wi-Fi Alliance certification is critical.
And so, like, the people that already have 802.11.b or G, should they upgrade to N?
Well, if you've got B and you want faster network speeds, N's a great way to go. I would skip G entirely. If you've got G and you don't move huge files internally on your network, your big movie files, maybe you're backing up your hard drive, stuff like that, then 802.11n's probably a good idea. I mean, wired gigabit Ethernet, that's 1,000 megabit per second, that's the theoretical max. 802.11g is 54 megabit per second, theoretical max. 802.11n's like 200 megabit per second. So N should be about 4 times as fast as 802.11g.
But it's not going to necessarily make your internet access any faster.
Right. Well, if you've got like an 8 megabit per second connection, which is huge, most people don't have anything like that. Maybe you've got an internet 2-pipe at college, or maybe you have 400 people splitting, a wireless network. Then suddenly having, like the 802.11n's like 80 megabit per second, give or take. That's rough. 802.11n should be like 4 times as fast as G, or have 4 times as much sort of bandwidth to share. Then the 802.11n starts looking sensible, but no, it's not going to make your like 2 megabit DSL pipe run faster.
All makes sense.
I hope so.
It all makes sense now. Okay, email number 2. I am a full-time student living off of water, sunshine, and takeout.
I know
What's
that
the most
lifestyle.
affordable laptop I can use to talk with my family overseas? I hope it's not too limiting, but I don't trust posting my credit info on the web. I prefer to walk into a store and buy it from a real person. From John.
This is a great question from John.
Well, first off, God, I'm such an avid online shopper, so I think it is time for you to get over your fear of buying stuff online. There are tons of great prices, lots of options, and millions of folks shop online daily without problems, and plus, your credit card company can protect you from fraud, anything over $50, which I've actually enacted before, sure.
I did not know
Sure,
that. You have been defrauded.
Yes.
That's scary.
It is scary.
That's pretty
But
scary.
that's why I have fraud
credit
reports and things that notify me now.
Basically, though, what you're saying though is like the price and the selection online. I mean, listen to the woman; she speaks true. Not even talking about Zappos, right? Which is like the ultimate place to buy shoes online for men and women.
Handbags.
But if your primary use, I mean, you just buy the stuff online. It gives you, greater selection, and you're going to spend less money doing it. If you don't want to do that, in any case, you just want to talk to your family overseas, you're using Skype, you don't really need much of a computer. Well, a gadget like Nokia's N800, right? That's pretty cool. It's under $300, works with Wi-Fi, a Skype built in, little tiny weird keyboard, but if you just want to talk to people, it's a great device, doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yep, totally. And how about if he needs a notebook for other stuff other than Skype?
That's when you start spending a lot more money. You can kind of throw the dice and buy a used notebook if you're feeling brave. I don't tend to trust used notebooks. Better idea is to save your money and wait for a sale.
What are you talking about, Patrick? What are you talking about? You don't trust used notebooks. What?
Usually they work out great.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Keep going.
We all get bit on the ass once in a while. But if you want to, save up for sale, I was looking around this morning, right? Found Sony and HP notebooks for $650 after rebates, like $50, $100 rebates at CompUSA with Core 2 Duo processors, gigabyte of RAM, 160 gigabyte hard drives. That's a really great deal for $650.
So definitely shop around and try local mom and pop computer stores and wait for sales at the big box stores like Best Buy, Circuit City, CompUSA. You get the idea.
And if you can get over that fear of online shopping, check out newegg.com, Dell.com. Just shop around. It's okay. Use your credit card. Just use it responsibly. And the other thing, if you're going to buy a computer, you're always going to get more computer for your dollar in a desktop machine than you are in a notebook. Because notebooks, they got to be portable. They got an LCD. It gets expensive.
That's right. All right. Finally, email number 3. Not too long after the Xbox 360 HD DVD drive came out, I heard that it was possible to connect the drive to a computer to use as an HD DVD drive. Is this true? And if so, how do you do it? Andrew, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay, HD DVDs don't work in a regular DVD drive. The Xbox 360, about 180 bucks, depending on where you buy it. This is an HD DVD drive. I have it plugged into a Vista machine right here, and if you look at the monitor behind me, the key part of this little equation is about $100 worth of software called CyberLink Power DVD. And this is basically designed to allow you to play HD DVD or Blu-ray discs if you have enough power, and that's one of the big questions. Check this out. There's a little CyberLink advisor you can download and run before you buy this. And you notice how long it's taking to launch that. This takes a huge amount of processing power to deal with HD DVD and Blu-ray. So I'm going to scan for HD DVD support, and it's going to give me kind of a stop and go sign here. So I've got enough power, I've got enough memory, blah, 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 blah. And it gives you an idea of whether or not you can physically have the sort of the juice in your machine to play it. And I definitely suggest you check that out before you start buying HD DVD or Blu-ray drives. So CyberLink Power DVD, the Ultra version, which is $100, is pretty much the only thing out there that's going to work. Intervideo's Win DVD, only the Japanese version. Any DVD, interesting idea, but it's really allowed you to crack the protection but not really play it on your machine. And you're going to have an HDCP compliant monitor and an HDCP compliant graphics card if you want to watch all this stuff. So basically, it's a pain. It's a really
I'm exhausted just hearing about it. I mean, that's,
yeah,
that's
well,
very hard. And it doesn't seem like much of a bargain.
It's not at this point. When this stuff first came out and an HD DVD player was $500, not a bad deal, though it took months for the software to come together. Now you can buy $230, you can buy a HDA2, it's a Toshiba HDA2 HD DVD player, versus like $280 for your Xbox 360 HD DVD drive and the CyberLink software, and oh yeah, hopefully you've got a fast enough machine and a graphics card that's HDCP compliant.
Make me get dizzy.
It will really get you dizzy. So you know what? If you really want something cheap, go to Walmart at this point.
Okay. Because prices are going down.
Well, you know what? If you were lucky, last week they did a sell-off and they were selling HD DVD players for $100.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems to be the way to go. I mean, if you want to test yourself with all this nonsense, go for it. Otherwise,
well, if you've got a home theater PC, this is great.
Yes.
If you don't have a home theater PC, spend the $230, get the box, figure out the remote control with your universal remote. That's it for this week's show. I'm Patrick Norton,
and I'm Jessica Corbin. See you guys next time. Just like the one-winged dove. Better. Yeah. Who knew? I don't know why I'm doing that. 3, 2. So, what were you doing during the I'm sore.
I'll be gentle on it. Can you get more of your body weight over your shoulder?
I think my arm is gonna pop out. I want to bring a sweat. I need powder. You want to fight? Did you get tickets to the gun show?